On today's episode of Time About the Movies, a pretty stacked pre-Valentine's weekend with 4 movies that were all big blockbuster hits, including Channing Tatum and Rachel McAdams starring in The Vow, not a Nicholas Sparks novel. I did some research after yesterday's episode, and I found out that is not a Nicholas Sparks novel, but it could have been, honestly. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk about another pairing with Denzel Washington and Ryan Reynolds in Scary Movie, Dwayne Johnson, Luis Guzman, Vanessa Hudgens, Josh Hutcherson, and Michael Caine in the sequel that some people were not asking for, but it is kind of important for one person in particular. We'll talk about that with Journey to the Mysterious Island. And Star Wars Episode 1 comes to the big screen in 3D in a very significant movie. We'll talk more about in a very significant move. We'll talk more about that as we go along here. It's February 10th, 2012, and this is, of course, Time About the Movies.
The Vow. Go to thevow-movie.com to download your Vow photo frame and be part of the fan experience.
I mean, can you really blame me for not thinking that this was a Nicholas Sparks movie? I mean, it literally looks like one, but sadly it is not. Welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 4 movies that make up February 10th, 2012. Only 3 of them are new releases, and 1 is an older release, but some significant stories within these films we're going to look at here. But we're going to start off with The Vow. We have Channing Tatum and Rachel McAdams. I think I also said that the previous movie Channing Tatum was with Regina George, but that turns out not to be the case because that's actually Rachel McAdams' character, and the character that Amanda Seyfried played in Mean Girls was Karen. I was all discombobulated yesterday, but regardless, Channing Tatum and Rachel McAdams star as Leo and Paige, a couple who's just got married. After an accident, Paige is left unconscious, and when she awakens, she doesn't remember Leo. Her parents, who she hasn't seen since she and Leo got together, come and visit her. She can't believe that she hasn't seen them in a long time. Leo wants to bring her home with her parents, but her parents want her to go with them. She goes with Leo, but when she doesn't recognize anything, she goes to her parents, and she wonders why did she cut off contact with her family. She also runs into her ex and wonders why they broke up. Leo tries to win her back by courting her again. So this is kind of like a serious version of, I had the name for a second and I lost it. 50 First Dates, pretty much. It's a serious version of that. Just replaced Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore with Channing Tatum and Rachel McAdams. And the two really do have a lot of good chemistry together. Like I said, this is a big year for Channing Tatum because, he had been so stuck with, these romantic dramas and these action movies, but this was a year where he really began to broaden his approach. I mean, he was great in Haywire, he's going to be great in 21 Jump Street next month, and he's got Magic Mike in the summertime, and this has been a really good year for him, and this one may be his weakest film overall, but really, it's not for him or Rachel McAdams' fault. They're 2 really good people in this movie who work off each other very well. It's just the story seems way too familiar. Like I said, it's literally a story that is literally just a serious version of 50 First Dates without the comedy involved in it. I mean, they're perfectly fine in the movie. They're the ones carrying the load here. This is actually based off of a true story, too. I didn't realize that. You got good writers on here. Abby Cohen and Mark Silverstein, who did How to Be Single, He's Just Not That Into You. And they also have Jessica Timms, who, of course, made Parenthood, the TV series, and also About a Boy, the TV series. So there is a lot of good talent involved here. Also did Friday Night Lights, the show, too. I mean, the guy's pretty good with adapting movies from TV shows, but as far as the film itself goes, it is exactly what you think it is. It's a movie where you take the date out on Valentine's weekend, and you probably get nookie on the side, you probably get laid, but you're probably not going to remember this movie anytime soon, even though this was a massive hit when it came out. I mean, it made over almost $200 million off of a $30 million budget, so there was clearly an audience for it, but I just didn't see the enjoyment factor out of it. The only thing I really liked about it was Tatum and also Rachel McAdams. I thought they were both very good here. Other than that, though, there's not much more I can really add to it, per se. I wasn't a big fan of it, but it's not a bad movie. For a date night movie, it's fine for what it is, but I probably would never watch it again. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that's Denzel Washington and Ryan Reynolds together in the movie, which should be awesome. But let's see what happens when we look at them in Safe House.
Safe House, rated R, in theaters February 10th.
I mean, the trailer looked pretty good. It's Denzel Washington and Ryan Reynolds, working off each other, and that usually is a very good sign. I've said it before about Denzel Washington. He's one of our greatest living actors. Ryan Reynolds, one of our greatest entertainers that we have right now. You think the pieces would be there, but not so much. Ryan Reynolds starring as a CIA rookie, Matt Weston, who is running a safe house in Cape Town, South Africa, where he comes across the CIA's most wanted rogue agent, Tobin Frost, played by Denzel Washington, who's captured and taken to the safe house. And during Frost's investigation, the safe house is overtaken by mercenaries who want Frost. Weston and Frost escape and must stay out of the gunman's sight until they can get to another safe house. And yeah, like I said, this is one of those movies where it should be fun overall. It's got a lot of good talent involved, but it's a very hit-and-miss movie. And let's start off with the good things. Like I said, Denzel Washington and Ryan Reynolds do work off each other very well. They're given enough there with the material overall. I mean, Ryan Reynolds has been trying so hard to reach a new level in his career at this point. Following The Proposal and Van Wilder, Green Lantern was the big flop from last summer. That and The Change-Up. And, of course, later on down the road, he'll find much more bigger success starting with the Deadpool movies. And then that kind of changes the dynamic of his popularity going forward. But here he's fine. He's delivering a solid performance and working well with Denzel Washington, who is really good in here too. But this may have been the worst thing I've seen him in since Unstoppable, which is quite literally a train wreck of the film. And I'm not just talking about the train itself. That movie was just rough on all cylinders. Some of the action sequences are good overall. They don't look fake. But then you get to the bad stuff. It's very predictable. Like, this is not the good kind of predictable, the shittiest kind of predictable. You can tell within the first 5 minutes of the movie who the bad guy was going to be, and when they reveal who it is, it's just like, wow, what a twist if I didn't guess what happened at the beginning of the movie. The character's Ryan Reynolds' character doesn't help either by being kind of a dumbass in here when it comes to him and his girlfriend. Like, why are you lying about your job description to your girlfriend? I mean, yeah, you can do the same thing that Schwarzenegger did in True Lies, or Brad Pitt and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, or James Bond, or Jason Bourne, but the difference is, you work in a safe house. You're not a CIA agent going out into the field where it would be understandable to keep your identity secret. There's no excuse to keep your job at a safe house a secret, and guess what happens? The girlfriend gets pissed off when he tells her. Again, shocker if you didn't know that was going to happen, which we knew was going to happen, because the script is so badly put together. There are some really, really bad bits of dialogue in this movie, and you cringe listening to it. It's just kind of like, what the hell is going on in here? It's just like, but I'll give it this. It does play out better than, say, the very similar Salt, which was one of the worst movies I saw a couple of years ago, and the plot of the film ends halfway through the movie, and we get another subplot that makes no sense. Safe House manages to keep its main plot going all the way to the end. The ending of Salt makes no sense whatsoever. Safe House's ending at least makes a little bit more sense. Salt does the bullshit cop out of it, teasing a sequel that's never going to happen. Safe House doesn't do that. It contains it into one single solitary film. And the biggest thing of all is that Salt had Angelina Jolie not even trying to be a badass, but Denzel Washington and Ryan Reynolds are at least trying to keep this sucker together. And God bless them, they're doing the best they can with it. But other than that, though, this is just a lackluster script. If I had to give it somewhat a review, I would say probably a rental at best. But other than that, though, I want to see these two in a much better movie. And Denzel Washington will have a much better movie later on in the year. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at our next film, Journey to the Mysterious Island.
Getting the attention of a woman is one of the hardest things to do, so you've got to do this. What is that? It's the peck pop of love. Now go on and throw a berry. Boom!
I think you can kind of get a sense of why this was such a significant movie for Dwayne Johnson, but we'll talk more about that in just a second. But Journey to the Mysterious Island, the sequel to Journey to the Center of the Earth, with only one person returning, and that is Josh Hutcherson, who's also going to have a really big year with the Hunger Games coming up the next month. He returns once again as the 17-year-old nephew of Brendan Fraser's character, who's nowhere to be found in this movie, who's answering a distress call from his long-lost grandfather, played by Michael Caine, and mounts a rescue to a mysterious island with help from his militaristic stepfather, played by Dwayne Johnson, and the crew of a helicopter tour, played by Luis Guzman and Vanessa Hudgens. And so, yeah, you can see where, this is kind of a big deal for Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson had been in a couple of action movies before this, but really, it started off with the Fast and Furious, where his action career really began to finally take off after all these years. And so with this became somewhat of the first movie that he was in, where you put him in a big blockbuster like this, and people will just go to see him in these movies, because he had a couple of big successes after this film came out. And this is also kind of a precursor to the much bigger and more successful Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, and then, of course, Jumanji: The Next Level, which I think are much better movies. It was directed by Brad Peyton, whose last film was another sequel, Cats and Dogs: The Revenge of Kitty Galore, which was surprisingly really good. A very, very big, surprisingly good movie. And just like that movie that had a Looney Tunes short in front of it, this also had a Looney Tunes short in front of it.
Bang, bang, there, bullets flying everywhere. I can't stand it any longer. I get weak and they get stronger. Hunters to the right of me, hunters to the left I see. Over hill and over dale, bullets whizzing past my tail. There's no rest and there's no peace. Won't the shooting ever cease? Morning, noon, and through the night. That's why I look such a fright. Bang, bang, bang. I'm only 16 yards ahead. Bang, bang, bang. They're shooting straight at me. Woo, woo, woo. They won't let up until I'm dead. Woo, woo, woo. Why can't they let me be? Why don't they hunt me while roof or chase a reindeer on the loose? It's possum, chipmunk, caribou, or rabbit for a rabbit stew.
Which, honestly, I probably would have gone to see the movie had I wanted to see the movie itself, but I don't know. I don't think it was worth going out there just to see that short and then going to see a movie that I thought was not going to be all that great. Because it is not really all that special. I mean, it is kind of on the same wavelength as the first Journey to the Center of the Earth movie was. And I think it does work because the actors are committed to the role in general. Dwayne Johnson in particular I thought was really good in here. But other than that, though, it's kind of like the original movie in general. It's much more brighter, much more colorful. The 3D definitely looks a lot better than it did in the first movie, but I was never really a fan of these movies, honestly. But give this movie its credit where its credit was due, because this was a significant movie for Dwayne Johnson. And, of course, it was part of a big year for Josh Hutcherson, like I said, who have the Hunger Games coming up. And I like the connection that Michael Caine is in this movie, coincidentally, because Brendan Fraser was also, they were both in the Cider House Rules together. And so it kind of ties back in a little bit here, because Brendan Fraser was in the first movie, now you have Michael Caine in this movie, and like I said, nothing really all that amazing about it. For families, it's fine for what it is. It's a kid's adventure film, but it is a precursor to Dwayne Johnson's bigger career going ahead of him overall, so take that for what you will. So, yeah, that's Journey to the Mysterious Island. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, which is a classic, if you want to call it that. I would disagree on that front, but it is one of the biggest successes of the time, coming back to theaters. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace in 3D! Yeah, Star Wars Episode 1's back in theaters 23 years after 13 years actually, after the original movie came out. Went on to become the biggest hit of all time at that time, and then, kind of faded into obscurity. This was still around the time when everybody hated it, still. Not like today, where people say that I'm the crazy one for hating it. Well, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It's still not a good movie. But, yeah, this was a 3D re-release. They were hoping to try to put the other Star Wars movies out in 3D, but even though this did pretty well, this never really got that opportunity to do so. I think mostly because of the event that happened in the fall, because not too long after this movie got re-released, Disney ended up picking up this Lucasfilm and the Star Wars franchise for $4 billion. I think it was... No, Marvel was $4 billion. What was... Give me 1 second. No, it was $4 billion. I thought it was more... I thought it was less than... I didn't think it was the same amount as what Marvel was ended up purchased for with Disney. I mean, because Disney and Marvel merged for $4 billion 3 years prior to this. But no, they got same price, $4 billion for Lucasfilm from Disney, and then yeah, that was a pretty significant thing at the time. I mean, not a lot of people were expecting to do so, but at the time, it made sense because Star Wars was still very much all around Disney, especially at Disney's Hollywood Studios, where they had Star Wars weekends. They had the Star Tours ride, the Indiana Jones ride. They were also putting together, the Star Wars theme parks in general, the Star Wars themed area that would eventually become Galaxy's Edge, and they were also getting ready to do a new trilogy, which was announced not too long after that deal got made, and we'll eventually see the first film of that coming up in 2015. But and not much more I can really add to this re-release itself, because I still think this movie is not great. I still think it's not a very good movie. I still don't like it, but hey, people got to see it in 3D, so hopefully they had a good time with it, because I really did not want to watch this movie, Phantom Menace again after that, So not much more to say about that. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace in 3D. Okay, I'll stop now. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we take a look at 2 movies, including, actually 3 movies. I'm looking at the other one now. Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance. Nicolas Cage returns as Ghost Rider. And hopefully, with the guys behind Crank, this series should get back on track. You would think. Not so much. Nope. I don't know what I was doing beforehand, but nope. We'll touch on that later on. We'll also have McG directing a romantic comedy, a romantic action comedy with Chris Pine. Who was the other one? Tom Hardy? I want to say Tom Hardy. I think it was Tom Hardy. Yeah, it's Tom Hardy, isn't it? Yeah, Tom Hardy, Reese Witherspoon in the comedy This Means War, and then Hayao Miyazaki returns to the big screen with a new film, The Secret World of Arrietty. So we'll take a look at those 3 films. That'll be coming up tomorrow on the show. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do me the honor and go ahead and hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the last episode we did. And stay tuned for a Time About the Movies flashback episode coming up later on tonight. So, with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.